Assalamu alaikum. Honored guests, welcome to our first debating event held by MediTalks. To start with the introductions, I'm your moderator, Baha Bilal. Our esteemed judges will be Dr. Agil Al-Badri or Dr. Basma Al-Gat'ani. As for the affirmative cabinet, Islam Bashir will be the representative, Ali Sharif will be the vice representative, and Muhammad Labaidi will be their third member. For the negative team, Qasim al-Sharif will be the representative, Zahra Abdullah will be the vice representative, and the third member will be Ahmed Al-Aribi. Each speaker will be allowed 7 minutes of speech, and the speaker may be interrupted by the opposition if he or she allows it. The signal for the interruption will be this. I would like to yield the floor to Dr. Zahra Abdullah to give an introduction.
Welcome everyone. We're really glad to have you here today as we hold our first debate session in our university. A debate is a formal discussion where the participants, also referred to as debaters, argue for or against a specific position. The audience, using evidence, logic to persuade the audience or judges of their viewpoint. Debates can occur in various settings, including academic competition and political events. The goal of the debate is not only to advocate for a position, but also to engage in critical thinking, improve public speaking, and encourage exchange of ideas in a constructive manner. Welcome again. I'm very ready to start.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for Dr. Zahra, and now for Dr. Muhammad Al-Baidi to give us an introduction about the vaccines we'll be speaking of.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Muhammad Al-Baidi, and I'll give you in a short notice. Vaccines we'll be talking about in this. Okay? I'm not representing. I'm only going to mention the vaccines we're going to talk about. Now, the living vaccines, first we start with the BCG, the Bacillus green or tuberculosis. Then we have the DTP, the diphtheria, tetanus, pertussis for child immunization. Then we have the polio, it's called OPV or IPV, symptomatic polio. And we have measles, mumps, or rubella, short for MR, for childhood immunization also. Then we have the hepatitis B for protection against hepatitis. Right. And then we have the HIV, hemophilus influenza type B, for prevention of bacterial infections. And we have the rotavirus, the yellow fever, the meningococcal, and the human poliomavirus, HPV. And finally, we have the influenza. These are the vaccines that we'll be talking about and why they should be mandatory. Not all vaccines should be mandatory, of course. It could be a waste of money and waste of resources. But these vaccines, per se, should be mandatory. And we will prove that with our program.
Assalamu alaikum. Starting with the affirmative cabinet, our speaker Islam will come to the floor and give his speech in 7 minutes.
Okay. Hi everybody, my name is Islam Billama.
He has the mic. Go ahead.
Quiz. I'll be alongside with my friends Muhammad Labaidi and Ali Sharif. We'll be representing the affirmative team. So we're here to discuss why vaccination should be mandatory. I believe that vaccination should be mandatory. First of all, I will discuss how vaccines have significantly reduced the death toll over the years, highlighting their crucial role in public health. Then our Vice Representative Ali will discuss vaccines safety and regulations. Finally, our third member or Assistant Vice Representative Muhammad will discuss what he said, the question of, or what he described, the question of value of life versus the illusion of free choice. I'd like to begin my segment by defining the process of vaccination. Vaccination is a process by which our immune system is stimulated or prepared to fight against certain infections or diseases. You can think of it as a way of tricking our immune system to build memory against pathogens that we have never been exposed to at the first place. Now that we know how the process of vaccination works, I like to share some statistics provided by the World Health Organization and the Center of Disease Control and Prevention to see how vaccines actually reduce death rates of certain diseases. Okay, so we'll begin by a summary of some vaccines that have reduced death rates. For example, COVID-19. COVID-19 vaccine have reduced or have prevented an estimated 14 million deaths between December 2020 and December 2021. Measles, before vaccination, measles caused 2.6 million deaths annually worldwide. By 2018, deaths were reduced by 73%. For poliovirus vaccination has prevented 16 million cases of paralysis and 1.5 million deaths globally. Now, I'm not trying to say that vaccines don't have any side effects. I mean, of course they do. We acknowledge that. So let's put all these informations to digest all these numbers, to digest all this information, let's put them into a thought experiment using real numbers. Imagine if 1 million children infected with measles, nearly all 100% will experience the initial symptoms, and approximately 95% will develop the rash. But these are not mild illnesses. It can lead to severe complications, such as, for example, diarrhea. 15% of infected individuals or infected children will experience diarrhea, 9% will experience otitis media or ear infection, pneumonia will happen in 6% of cases, and 0.1% of children infected with measles will experience encephalitis, which will ultimately lead to their death. So let's talk about now, what if these 1 million children were actually vaccinated? The common side effects of vaccines, such as fever and mild rash, represent 15 to 5% and are far less severe than the disease that they prevent. Now, we're not trying here to say that vaccination don't have any side effects. Of course they do, we acknowledge that. But we also do know that children were dying and now they're not, thanks to vaccination, and supporting vaccine programs will ensure that future generations will live longer and healthier life. That's it for me. Thanks to everybody.
Thank you very much. The mic, please. Thank you very much for Mr. Islam. Now, for the negative team, I yield the floor for the representative speaker, Qasim Al-Sharif. Come to the floor, please.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed judges and members of the audience. Today, we stand firmly against the proposition that vaccines should be mandatory. Although we believe and acknowledge the undeniable benefits of vaccines and the importance of public health, we believe that mandatory vaccines infringe individual liberty. And we'll believe that there's a more ethical approach. Number one, which is the most important, educating the public. The public doesn't know what you know. If you're a doctor, you understand the effects, you know the rates, as he said, the percentages, but normal citizens don't know that. That's why we think educating the public is very important, rather than forcing them into taking something they don't understand, which can lead to suspicion and distrust to the government, which happened in multiple occasions. For example, in 1970 in America, which was written by Alina Konis, a historian of public medicine at Emory State. In 1970, the government forced vaccine for poliovirus, which to children without the parents knowing or having any control over it, which led to distrust and suspicion. This suspicion started to grow and led to a whole movement and a protest. Later on, their parents, who led this movement, and feminism, which led this protest, they found out what the vaccines contain, and they contain mercury, aluminum, and formaldehyde, and other dangerous substances. These substances, lots of kids were affected by them and caused death. To these parents, their anger grew larger, the protests grew and led to a decrease in vaccination rate, which is not something that we want. We agree that vaccination is good. And there are many more instances like this. For example, number one, in the 19th century in England, in the early 1900s, in America for the smallpox vaccination. Number three, the vaccine war in India, which was led by the Muslim community. And all of these, guess what they had in common? The one problem in common was that they had misinformation. That's why educating the public is very, very important. So instead of forcing vaccines, we advocate for well-funded education campaigns which address the effectiveness of vaccines and the misinformation with scientific evidence that is available to the general public, and building trust with the community, as trust builds strong communities. Number two, we also need to engage with religious groups. Religious groups are opposed to these vaccinations most of the time because of their religious beliefs. And this is again due to misinformation. For example, for the COVID-19 vaccination between May 2020 and April, 473 priests from churches, they did not accept the vaccination. They thought it was going against their religion. Due to what? They thought that all vaccinations were grew on fetal cells from aborted babies, which was unethical in their eyes. But that was actual misinformation. But if we guided them and gave them the proper information, the accurate information with these religious leaders, we would target the whole community, the whole religion group, and which will increase rate of vaccination. So our goal is to increase rate of vaccination without enforcement or anything. Ultimately, the goal is to increase vaccination rates, not to force. Building trust among community leaders is going to be more sustainable than forcing them. For the long term, it is more ethical, more cost-effective approach than mandatory vaccination. And that's our point. Thank you very much. Yes, please.
Qasim, he has a question. Do you accept?
I'll listen and then I'll say.
You said the greater cause of people not accepting vaccination was misinformation. Are you hinting that you can excuse...
I never said greater cause, but continue on, please.
Are you hinting that excusing the lack of knowledge can be, you can excuse lack of knowledge to actually be causing death?
My question to you, do you think if I give you something that you don't understand, you don't know what it does, you don't know the effects, but you know that it killed so many people, do you think you would take it without any questioning? Do you not? No, it's not debating anything. That's my answer to your question, please. Don't ask me anymore. That was my answer. I think it's normal human instinct to judge what you're going to take into your body. If I don't know it, I don't want to take it. Because it can contain mercury and formaldehyde and other substances. Do I know? No, they don't. You know why? Because they don't label them in the vaccination. They're not transparent. And that's my point.
So if I don't know about the vaccine...
No more questions, please. You asked too many questions.
Thank you very much, Qasim.
I already answered.
Now a 4-minute break. Welcome back. Now for the vice representative of the affirmative team, Ali Sharif, can you please come to the floor? One, two, three.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed judges and colleagues, today we are convened to talk about a very important topic, mandation of vaccination. Now, unlike the opposition would like you to believe, we're not mandating every vaccine, we're only mandating some, as we spoke of before. As far as liberty, individual liberty, my colleague will speak of it very, very thoroughly. Okay? As for education, this is not the topic of the debate today. I would like the opposition to stick to topic. The topic of today is mandation of vaccination, not education. We're not talking about priorities here. We're only talking about should it be applied or should it not? I will further talk about education later on. As the opposition stated, vaccination is an important tool, a critical tool in human prevention of disease. It's the first step to prevent disease, okay? Some vaccinations are given in scenarios, specific scenarios, such as rabies vaccination. It's only given to people that deal with animals regularly. We are not mandating these vaccinations to ordinary public citizens, while some others are mandated because they are widespread and lead to very fatal outcomes. An example for this vaccination would be the poliovirus vaccination, which my opposition vehemently spoke badly about. And we will speak about the incidents later, the 1970 incidents and the 1955, which my opposition didn't speak of. Yeah, no, it's not your time. Now, vaccines are not given arbitrarily. That's where my role to shed light on the situation will be. There are safety rules, regulations, and stipulations given by the EMA, the European Public Health Organization, the FDA, an American entity, and the WHO. Let's walk through them slowly to make the picture clear. This is not haphazard. We have rules and regulations for vaccination. First, we pass through the pre-approval clinical trials, where we have 3 phases of testing, where we test healthy individuals for efficacy, immune response, and for any adverse effects. In this phase, we also look for any contraindications that will be written on the manual, and like my opposition says, there are transparencies. When you do research, there has to be transparency. You can look it up yourself. After which, you have...
Mr. Speaker, the opposition would like to interrupt.
And I deny that, because I didn't prove my point yet. Second, there's a regulatory review and approval, where you have separate entities, not pharmaceutical companies that produce the vaccine. So there is no conspiracy here. The FDA, the WHO, and the CDC. CDC stands for Control of Disease and Prevention. It's the Center of Control of Disease and Prevention. And then once these look through the vaccines and their contents, they are put on shelves and they are given to healthcare workers. After which, you have a post-approval monitoring, where there's a complete swipe of surveillance on any incidents of vaccine adverse effects that are not taken into account. This is an important point, because this shows that vaccination is not a simple topic, and it's a big topic of research. This gives a layer of protection for the patients, because when you have a lot of research talking about a certain point, the number of error for any vaccination would be lowered significantly. After that, we have a quality manufacturing control, where you have 2 phases. You have good manufacturing practices, where you have the environment completely sterilized and monitored by experts. And then you have batch testing. Now let's talk about batch testing. As the opposition talked about, in 1970, there was a case where poliovirus vaccines were not sterilized. So when they were given to patients, it caused infections and disease. There was also a separate case in 1955, it's called the Cashier's case, where the vaccination had an error, where the attenuation of the vaccine, there's an attenuated vaccine where basically the pathogen is weakened and given to the patient. The attenuation was not done correctly because it was done by an uprising new company. This led to a case of around 150 patients of paralysis. To put this issue to a complete halt, we started doing quality manufacturing, surveillance and monitoring.
1
1 minute left. Okay, I will hurry. Then we have adverse event reporting, where questionnaires are given to health workers and patients to fill up for any adverse effects that may have spurred. After that, we have vaccine safety guidelines and education. So education is also important, and it's part of the regulation. We educate the patients by educating the healthcare workers. We tell the healthcare workers, you should tell the patient, this is the adverse effects, these are the risks, and it is mandatory to be given because of herd immunity. Herd immunity is where the society is protected by the individuals.
10 seconds.
Once you give vaccination, 10 seconds. I have to move on to the closing statement then. Can I have an addition of time? Or
Time.
Time finished.
Finished.
Can you take from my time? Can I ask a question?
He- he-
Can you take from my time?
He could.
Yeah, can you give him a minute of my time?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, good. Let's just go to the ending statement. So, as I said before, there are many regulations and safety procedures for vaccination. Vaccines undergo extensive testing and surveillance to ensure that their benefits far outweigh any potential risks, providing a critical tool for preventing any disease. If any person and opposition believe that vaccination should not be mandatory due to their high risks of adverse effects, or because of some conspiracies of pharmaceutical companies, then said person should believe in drugs that cure diseases that are on the shelves of pharmacies, as they go through the same clinical trials and are controlled by the same
10 seconds.
companies. So I urge the audience, the judges, my opposition, to listen carefully to sound logic.
Time.
And not listen
Time.
to fear mongers.
Thank you, mister. Thank you. Thank you very much. I would like to notify the audience that Mr. Ali has taken 1 minute from Muhammad's time. So Mr. Muhammad will have 6 minutes instead of 7. And now, for the vice representative of the negative team, Zahra Abdussalam, come to the floor, please.
Hello everyone, and welcome again. As the other team that states that vaccines should be mandatory said that vaccines are made through a systemic scientific process, which obviously proves. And we agree with that, because if it's not done like that, why are they being given to the public? To mention this, we are not against vaccination. What we're against is vaccination is mandatory for everyone. There are certain cases that should not be taking certain vaccines. Though the other team mentioned that not all people should take certain vaccines, which obviously contradicts the statement of this. Also, the other team mentioned several vaccinations at the beginning, including HPV, MMR, polio, and other vaccines that are given during the infancy period, which is from birth until 1 year of age. These vaccines, unfortunately, if not proven, scientific research fails to conclude certain relationships with certain diseases. In the year 220, which is recent, Hooker and Miller found a high outbreak between an unvaccinated group of children and the vaccinated group of children, finding that the unvaccinated children had higher tendencies for developmental delays, asthma, and ear infections. Furthermore, in 2018, Yun, and Lee in a study involving Korean children who were all vaccinated with the Hep B vaccine, which is given through infancy and other team mentioned, have more incidents of asthma. In 2016, Yang and Sun proved a relationship between vaccination and allergy and in the year 2000, which is not that recent, Wirtz and Morgenstern reported an association between VEP and tetanus toxoid vaccination and allergy symptoms, and they failed to exclude a relationship with asthma. In summary of all of those researches I mentioned, vaccines, especially in the infancy period, have failed its exclusion of serious adverse effects and increased incidence of allergies, including asthma. No, it's very good. In a specific review made by Smith and Amleth et al. In 2017, it concluded that to improve the uptake and it concluded that to improve the uptake of vaccinations by the general public, we need to educate the parents instead of mandating the vaccine, especially during the children or the infancy period. Because by Gravagna et al. In 2020, they found that 54% of 193 countries, aka 105 countries, have mandatory vaccination policies with at least one penalty for people who don't undergo vaccination, including educational penalties. Meaning they refuse to educate the children in schools, for example. Here in Libya, we have mandatory policy, but apparently they don't have that penalty. In 2004, Smith and Shaw et al. Found out that unvaccinated children came from educated families.
Question?
We're done?
No, I think the opposition would like to pose a question.
No.
I didn't ask the question.
Judge, why did you?
Oh, sorry. Okay, my bad. Continue.
Okay. So Smith and Shaw in 2004 concluded that unvaccinated children came from
Stop talking.
wealthy, educated families that refused to believe what the researchers were saying, aka misinformation. So that aids our process for campaigning to the parents to vaccinate them. I think that's all for me.
Okay, very good. Well done. Now we'll have a 4-minute break. We resume our debate. Now for the assistant vice representative for the negative team, for the positive team, Muhammad Labedi. Come to the floor, please. Muhammad Labedi will be having 6 minutes instead of 7. 1, 2, 3, go.
That I will reply to what they said at certain points. First of all, they use a tactic, a way, this called chocolate tactic. This chocolate tactic is to give multiple small details, no details, points to make the other party have a struggle to defend all. So they actually point out our logic. I can't simply take a 3-point approach. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to reply to a circular, which is, she said that some rich, well-educated families did our vaccine. This is something called the anecdotal evidence. When a single individual decides he has a certain experience, this experience should not be taken as a systematic way. It's an adequate element is when an experience faces a single individual. One person. Okay? So my goal here is to, in a certain way, to include all what we said from 3 points of view. My first mate said talk about the benefits of vaccine and how much death it reduced. A lot of death, now less. My second mate talked about the safety of the vaccine and how it goes as an extensive methods of regulation and deregulation of the vaccine itself. We do not say everyone should take the vaccine. My brother said there are some people that should avoid vaccine. People like, you have a question?
Yes.
No. Okay. My friend, if you miss out for a certain week, we have a problem. That's not an issue. I will talk to you about it. This regulation is that not anyone should be taking vaccines. Some people are immunocompromised, and some individuals that we are taking into consideration to have a problem. Our system, we have healthcare, we are ensuring the best results and outcome to come out. Okay? Well, the point of view that I am discussing is that it's up somewhat philosophical. I don't understand what I'm trying to say. It says the question of the value of life against the freedom of choice. Okay? It's somewhat a stage, so I have to be reading. Should vaccines be mandatory? It's not about the benefits outweighing the risks, as we said. We also see it's about how one option could leave us with dreadful outcomes and another with simple choice to live. Because if you don't take the vaccine, like tuberculosis, like polio, which we cause paralysis, which twice a month is not. So it's about living and not living. If you talk about other side effects like asthma is cured. Asthma is considered a second, you prevent it with a second production. But death, you have to stop it before it begins. Okay, so it's about one option to leave us with dreadful outcomes and another with simple chance. Free will is what makes us human. I get to choose whether I want to take vaccine or not. But in the process of enjoying what's humanity, it can be at the cost of people, millions of these bodies of humanity. And I say, I don't want to take the vaccine, so I take tuberculosis. I infect my brothers or my family or whatever, they all die because of my own choice. This is unbecoming. For the selfishness that stems from the ignorance, he talked a lot about people not knowing about the vaccine, like this is an excuse to come out to take the vaccine and die to other people. Again, this is unbecoming. For the selfishness that stems from the ignorance can be compared to agony. The value of a single life equals all living life, and I'll do that. But the value of all living life is worth more. And to go back extremely within the see if you want to put religion in this, I will quote on and say, when I have a so I'm pointing out here that the single life worth more than just single life. Okay. But what I take to mean by saying this, we as a society, as healthcare, whatever this society work, cannot give up on civil life because it's less than number. Because it's equal to that. We cannot allow you to have choice to choose. That's why I'm saying. You wanting to abuse your freedom of choice and choose not to take a vaccine because you don't know what is it. And I need education. Of course, education will be given. But after education is given, you still have no choice to deny the vaccine. We cannot allow it. Okay. And we cannot make ourselves stand helpless watching mothers killing their child, the children, and fathers that actually care for the kids, see them die because they don't know what they're using. And now, if we talk a lot about education, I have to address education is somewhat easier to obtain now than 100 years before. You can easily access all the information by databases.
1 minute left.
Okay. I have to say this, but the illusion of free choice that leads you to sacrifice anything that comes in your way. Search of conscience. Us, on this specific situation here, the side of the right, cannot allow that vote for one. I get to work with choice, so no, I have to obey me and just I get to do whatever I want. But establish the whole goal, because forcing vaccination, like we said in the beginning, it's taking away human rights. Forcing vaccination isn't taking away human rights.
Do you allow the opposition to interrupt, Mr. Speaker?
I only have moments. I can't allow. And all the data given by Pakistan and all
10 seconds.
Okay, it says the vaccine safety, it can be trusted because it goes through extensive method of irrigation and okay.
And time. Thank you. Microphone. Here. Microphone. Thank you. Now for the Assistant Vice Representative on the negative team, Ahmed Laribi, please come to the floor. Okay. Tamam. Perfect. 1, 2, 3, go.
So, hello everyone, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed governors, dear colleagues. First of all, I want to thank all of you for giving us time and attending this session. After that, I need to ask you just a question. Can you please tell me what's the debate session that you agreed to attend? What was the title posted there? Okay, so what we have to.
Audience are not allowed to contribute.
Can I ask one of the?
Yes, of course.
What was the title? You approved to the title is should vaccination be mandated? But as the should vaccination be mandated, we are the ones who set the definition and the whole motion. And we set it.
Do you want him to continue to speak?
We said we disagree with our definition, but we set the motion.
Do you want him to continue?
I think that half the title was should vaccination be mandatory for everyone. And I'm quoting Muhammad Ali in his speech. He said, "We did not say that everyone should take vaccine," which contradicts the title of this whole session. After that, I'm replying to what Ali Sharif said about we were talking about education, which is not the topic of this session. We talked about education as an alternative. Of course, we're not denying the idea of mandating vaccines without being an alternative to that idea. So we're denying mandating, and we're leading to persuading, convincing, and educating and raising the awareness of the public. Okay, by that we can increase the rates of vaccination by their own level. Okay, so our argument was based on first aid, court's autonomy, and personal freedom. And one of the minimal rights an individual should have is the right to decide over their own body, especially if this person is alive, awake, and mentally capable. Okay, they should decide what's good for them. Who has the right to challenge a parent's opinion or decision over the health of their own children? Who has the right to take away any rights from any citizen? And if there is an organization that could take that right, what prevents them from mandating medical procedures? If they can mandate vaccines, and they have the right to force vaccines over the public, they can mandate medical procedures. After that, we talk about a medical procedure, and we have something called medical ethics. And there's an informed consent, which is a cornerstone of having a medical procedure without an informed consent. This regards the whole principle. So, if I can do that without a medical consent, I can do a violation without being punished or without being even questioned what the violation is. After that, of course, the educational background that Rahma talked about. She said, like most of the parents who were against vaccination, they weren't ignorant. They were educated from a highly educated background, and they were academically educated about this topic itself. Okay, so they were making their decision based on science, not based on myths or like feelings. So if they made a decision based on science, you should convince them with science rather than forcing them. By forcing a person who talks with science, you actually told me that you cannot reply, so you just want to force your opinion. At the end, of course, as medical students, we agree and we approve the idea of vaccination. Of course, we wish to promote the decision of the people who are against vaccination. We wish to educate, to raise awareness, but simply we don't see a wrong decision and we don't change it. Okay, we need to understand the logic
the morals, the position of the parents or the people who are against vaccination, so that a two-way communication can occur in a culturally appropriate or in a culturally appropriate way. At the end, of course, I want to say that to sum it up in one sentence, you guys chose to cut the knot, we chose to untie it with logic. And thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to the speakers for your wonderful performance. A round of applause, please. We will be holding a voting ballot. So green symbolizes the affirmative and red symbolizes the negative. Please vote for the more convincing cabinet. Do you have the ballot? Okay, sure. Okay, those who vote for the affirmative team, can you raise your hand? Yes, the affirmative team, yes. Can you raise your hand? Okay, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. Okay. Those who vote for the negative team, can you raise your hand? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 6. And 7. 8. That sums this up. The next. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Now for the esteemed judges.
شكرا جدا. شكرا على كل فرصه ان احنا معكم. وليس اللحظه الغرض من لدينا شباب مش بس الساينتفك كونتنت بتاعها وشو فيه وشو ما فيش، ما تنشروش فيها واحد، وان كان فيها نقاط ممكن نستفيد منها مع بعض. نحن الفكره كلها اللي ما عمره ما سمعنا الديبيت ولا عمره ما حضر يعيشها، يقول هذه طريقه جديده للتعلم وتبادل الاراء. وهي حاجه عالميه تحكوا فيها اشهر دوله في امريكا في انتخابات الرئاسه قبل شويه يجيبوا الانجليز. فهذه الفكره الاولى، نشر الثقافه هذه او الطريقه هذه في التعلم وفي النقاش. هذه واحده. ثانيا ملاحظتي في تسييرها، اولا لازم تلتزموا بالوقت احسن من هيك في البدايات والنهايات. هذا اللي اضطرنا نديروا حاجه غلط في تسيير جلسه. كل ما يحكي واحد في بريك، بعد يحكي واحد من هنا واحد من هنا في بريك. نحن اضطرينا نلغوه لان بدينا متاخرين. فالالتزام بالوقت لازم. الاخرى انا عجبت جدا بتسييرها، لكن محتاج يكون توضعها او غيرها، بعدين اقوى شويه في السيطره على ما يقوليش مسموح له يحكي. لما يقعد البريك موجود بين كل واحد وواحد هناك يحكي. اذا كتبناها نحن اللي تشتتني، خاصه الشباب يحكوا بطريقه اكتف شويه ديناميك، هو مش يحكي يقول لا سمعت تحب حق تتفرج مش تسمع. لا انا اعرف هذول ابنائي مش فعرفت انت في السيطره وبعدين الوقت هذه، لكن غير هيك الامور ممتازه جدا وشرعيه. اذا تبقوا حكم القضاء الدكتور منير زي ما تاخذ شويه في المسألة مش واجد فيها، النتيجه ان هي تعادل. هي كانت لصالح المجموعه دي حتى
هو احنا تعادل، لكن انا الاجينست تيم او النيجاتيف تيم مش البدايه كانت شويه ويكي. البدايه كانت ان احنا اوكي مع الفاكسين، لكن رغم الاديوكيشن مهم. هذا البدايه نسيتها في الموضوع.
كانت محتاجه انت ساكت فيها انتم معاهم. والله يعني
لا البوينت البدايه دي ممكن تنهي الموضوع ممكن تمشي البدايه هذه كانت شويه. في نقطه ثانيه وفي موضوع اول السنوات المتداول على الفاكسين والاوتيزم حتى لو مش ممكن